For me, it would be far more meaningful and it would do far more to address the damaging legacy of residential schools if the Pope and politicians would address the current travesties taking place in Indigenous reservations. So, clean drinking water for every Indigenous person in this country, full stop. Do you think that's more meaningful than apology tours?
Yes, by all means. Like, there are First Nations in Manitoba that there is no running water. Like a little sentiment of a new building for on First Nations reserves all across Canada. So like this is a healing center and the government of Canada will fully support that and fund it.
Adam Soos here for Rebel News, and I've just arrived in Edmonton. We are here covering Pope Francis's visit, his efforts to make amends and heal as an extension of the devastating legacy that was left behind by the residential school. This is a story that touches so many people. I just happened to be walking out here. Right away, you share with me that you're a residential school survivor. Can you just tell us from your personal experience a little bit about what that was like for you?
Hi, my name is Margaret Mackay. I'm from Fort Smith, Northwest Territories. As I was growing up in residential school until I was 19 years old, I'm also a 60 scoop survivor as well. Throughout those years, it was really tough sort of growing up and having like to lose my language into the system, which was ruled by social services under the government of the Northwest Territories. We left our home due to my mother. My father had passed away when I was 7 years old of a heart attack. And we were in care, receiving homes, foster homes, group homes. And we never had the same parents, but yet the abuse, and it wasn't more so like torture, but when I went into over at Brennan Hall, there that was run by the nuns, and they were quite mean in terms of sort of growing up. I actually ran away from there when I was there, and they found me, and I had to go back, and I was disciplined with no privileges, whipped with a ruler on my hands. I've heard many other horror stories of other friends and family members that were worse, sexually assaulted, and I'm kind of one of the fortunate ones that has never experienced that. We're here right today for that Pope Francis's visit, and I've spoken on my own because I'm media for News North newspaper up in Yellowknife, Northwest Territories, and most of the majority of the people that I speak to are not for his visit because they still feel the hurt, the shame, the guilt, the damage is done, and we're survivors, so we're just trying to heal ourselves. But the Pope, I don't know.
The other thing that I wanted to ask you about is obviously over the past couple of years, we've been hearing these horror stories of mass graves.
Yes.
Now, some of those they have now said, oh, it was actually a lost cemetery, or they've said other things. We've had some Indigenous leaders come out too and say, no, this might be news to white people, but we've known about this for a long time. Do you feel that they're sort of trying to get people upset and angry and trying to stir things up?
Who are you referring to, the church?
Well, maybe the media even, because when I talk to Indigenous people, they say, we already knew about this, and it seems to be a lot of politics making it headlines, maybe even Justin Trudeau wanting to say he's the one who's dealing with this, but Indigenous communities have known about this for a long time.
Which we have, and our current Prime Minister, he's not well liked by Indigenous peoples because he's not for us. He is only on his own agenda.
But the statement overall of a government that is willing to reflect on its mistakes and mistakes of the past is what Canadians expect.
This is my sentiment, and I'm coming at it from an outsider's perspective. For me, it would be far more meaningful and it would do far more to address the damaging legacy of residential schools if the Pope and politicians would address the current travesties taking place in Indigenous reservations. So, clean drinking water for every Indigenous person in this country, full stop. Do you think that's more meaningful than apology tours?
Yes, by all means. Like, there are First Nations in Manitoba that there is no running water. Like a little sentiment of a new building for on First Nations reserves all across Canada. So like this is a healing center, and the government of Canada will fully support that and fund it.
Hey guys, I just wanted to point out the incredible amounts of equipment that you see behind me, none of which is ours. We don't have, frankly, the money to spend on all this equipment. We don't have 5 sound people and makeup artists and all that stuff. Often when we're reporting, it's just us with a microphone and a cell phone getting you the other side of the story. I actually prefer it that way. It means that we can move around faster, we can talk to people, we can get the nitty gritty details that mainstream media with all their setup just can't get to. Another reason we don't have that equipment is because we don't get the multi-million and in fact sometimes billion-dollar handouts that mainstream media takes in order to keep themselves alive. We trust entirely on our viewers and rely entirely on our viewers for their support. So if you appreciate the fact that we're here covering the Pope's visit and the fact that we're asking tough questions, telling the other side of the story, I'm urging you, go to popereports.com. That's where you'll find all our reports, but also it's also where you can chip in and help us pay for this important work that we're doing.